shakele love. This love when I wanna get another one, I go take and do waiting I love, waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do what we done my heart, oh. Go no be vodka, Mr. Money Changer, but I know the ways that Mr.
You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, mat nayela pese. You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, muna kapela, chora kakisa, bayari hela pere, balungana baire.
That dream of studying and working abroad has been made much accessible to everyone, including you. So worry less about how you're going to get there, because we always make it happen. This is Staff Finders Ghana Limited. We offer a highly professional guidance and support system, both in your university and visa application process. Staff Finders Ghana Limited is a highly trusted agency of the University of the West of Scotland, one of the largest modern universities offering a range of academic, social, and sporting facilities. You can apply for undergraduate, masters and PhD in business and creative industries, education, social sciences, computing, engineering, physical sciences, health, and life sciences. Come through Staff Finders, and for your studies, you get yourself a laptop or a £500 gift voucher. Call on +233 598 4888 04. WhatsApp on +44 7404 711 049. Send us an email or visit our website for more information.
It's yet another Saturday afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the Boston area. My name is Ayuri Inga Agana, and your host of Political Justice. We are out here in the diaspora, but we are deeply concerned about events and happenings in Ghana. And so we take time every Saturday afternoon to talk about them. But usually I'm joined by very knowledgeable panelists to do justice to the issues. With me here this afternoon, Dr. Neil Okine, who is an assistant professor of actuarial science at Appalachian State University in North Carolina. Dr. Zita Seshi, who is a sociologist based out in Canada. And joining us in the course of our conversation would be Alfred Appiah, who is a policy and data analyst, also based in Canada, and Bernard Akalbion. He's an economist, not yet with us here yet, but he's going to join us when we begin the conversation. So, Ni, it's just you and I for now. How's the weekend going?
Well, when the fall season comes with it, with the cold and the flu and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Okay.
I have a little bit of cold, but yeah, aside that, everything is good.
Okay. So yeah, I actually didn't talk about the topics for this afternoon's conversation. We're going to talk about an issue that I normally characterize as playing with fire, which is the issue of Galamsey. I think in the course of last week, the Ghana Water Company attributed its inconsistent water supply to the issue of Galamsey. And I believe Galamsey, every Ghanaian knows the meaning of Galamsey, but perhaps if some non-Ghanaians happen to be watching us, Galamsey is the terminology for illegal mining, right? But now these days, there are some other environmentally unfriendly ways of mining that, in fact, if we want to, properly characterize those too, they would fall in the category of Galamsey. But Galamsey generally just is used to describe the type of mining practices that are not, recognized either legally or even as environmentally friendly. So I try to avoid the legal dimension because there are certain practices that we are going to talk about today that, in the eyes of a responsible public or a responsible government, you cannot really consider that as legal in any shape or form. It might be legal on paper, but in terms of the practice, it is as devastating as those who do it illegal. So we'll talk about that issue. But we move on to talk about still on the manifestos of the main political parties leading into the 2024 elections in December. So far, the NDC and the NPP have put out their manifestos. The question is, are these manifestos going to move voters? We see a lot of promises. Both parties have made very lofty promises. Are these realistic promises? Are these promises that can be fulfilled? Are these promises that the electorate would consider as genuine in terms of really attracting them to vote for one party or the other? But the most important question is, did they consider the most important things that electorates equally consider important? Are they things that can deliver what perhaps democracy promises? Because we've heard complaints about the fact that we are running a democracy, and that the democracy so far hasn't delivered the goods that we understand to come with the practice of democracy. So we will talk about that. We scrutinize the manifestos in terms of their feasibility in materially and also in the eyes of the voter. So Alfred, you're welcome as well. Yeah. So without let me take a break from the talking and then shift it over to my panelists. So I have Alfred Appiah, who is a data scientist and policy analyst based in Canada. I have Dr. Akalbion, who is an economist who has chosen not to join the poverty-stricken academia, but have chosen to go into industry, perhaps to make loads of money, right? But so, gentlemen, I'll play a video about Galamsey first, and then it will lead us into the conversation. But Zita, you're welcome. Today we have a full house.
Yeah, no, thank you. Sorry for my, I'm having tech issues and I don't have good lighting today, but hoping to power through.
Yeah.
Lee, I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me play the introductory video, and then we'll come and talk about the Galamsey issue.
Is ahead of a major crackdown in Galamsey hotspots, especially in the central region, after the devastating impact on water supply. The Ghana Water Company had earlier issued a warning it will shut down some of its production plants due to significant disruption by illegal mining activities and attacks on its staff by perpetrators. The situation is already dire, with water generation already dropped from 70% to 40% nationwide. Residents in these communities are in a state of despair following the damage done to their livelihoods.
Excuse me. Sebi. Makana 3 times.
Ankobra River, situated in the western region of Ghana, flows through the Dwaboso and Nzema East districts. Direct mining on the river in many of the communities along its path has reduced its integrity. The Ankobra is contaminated. The 2023 testing of samples from various catch points revealed high levels of arsenic, chromium, cadmium, lead, and other harmful metals from Galamsey.
I know of MMDCs and MPs in some communities who have employed people to do Galamsey for them. Even some chiefs in some communities do Galamsey.
At the estuary, where it joins the sea at Axim, residents of Ankobra town are bearing the brunt of the pollution.
This is what remains of a once beautiful, clean estuary where the Ankobra joins the sea. It is now a milky, polluted river joining the sea here. And it is denying a lot of residents here jobs, tourism, and livelihoods. We are here to find out more.
Assembly member for the area, Patrick Isua, confirms the illegal mining operations in and around the Ankobra are eroding the economic gains of the community.
Due to the Galamsey activities, we have lost 3 things. One is tourism. The second one is the source of water. And the third one is jobs. Why am I saying so? Because it has affected us economically. Yes, so we are suffering. We are suffering because of the Galamsey activity.
The fishermen and the women who sell their catch are out of jobs.
Previously, we used to catch some fishes here at the estuary, but with the onset of the Galamsey, all of them are gone. We used to fish August, September, October, November, December, 5 months, but now we can only fish for 2 months and we are running at a loss.
Houses at the estuary have flooded recently. Former assembly member for Ankobra town, Mr. Morke, believes the silting of the river by Galamsey is to blame.
Now, the Galamsey that they are doing is very closer to the Ankobra River. So that's why it's causing the flood in the community, because the sand that they dig and the river that they heap over there flows into the Ankobra River. And now the river is being wide. So the water that comes from the top to this place is more than previous one that we have been seeing. So the Galamsey is directly that's what is giving us problem in this community.
The constant pollution of the Ankobra River by Galamsey is a violation of the right to clean and potable water. Until government finds a solution to this, people's life.
All right, guys, how did we get this far? Is this, I mean, I know the concept of the resource curse thesis is not normally used in a different context, but is this another dimension of the resource curse thesis? Have we been cursed by being the Gold Coast? Nee, I'll give you the first word since you were the first to join the stream.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure I don't say anything that it's not too palatable, but the simple fact is we have leaders, and when I say leaders, I mean the politicians, our chiefs, and whoever. They are just not being truthful, and we lack the will, because this is a problem that needs a will to solve it, the political will, and if you want it, if we want to say that, and it's a serious problem, and I don't understand why we seem to be tiptoeing around the issue. And the main argument I've heard for Galamsey is that it's providing jobs, but if you listen to the documentary we just listened, it's actually also taking jobs, right? It's taking jobs from the fishermen, the cocoa farmers, and all that. And it's also, as we saw in the report, is depriving people of clean and potable water. Ghana Water Company have stated that at some point they may not be able to provide clean water to the people in Ghana. And it looks like we are joking with the issue, but in a country where I always say our health system is not that strong, I don't know why we are, as you said, we are playing with fire. And this is if we don't take care, there's going to be a huge problem in the future, and we are not ready for it. I cannot imagine a country like Ghana having to import good water because we've polluted our water. But looking at the trend, that's where we are going. So we need to be truthful to ourselves. There are certain things that go beyond money. There are certain things that goes beyond politics. We had our government, our president said he'll put his
presidency on the line.
Presidency on the line. But the truth is, when he saw that it's going against him, he decided to take back his work. Retreat.
All right, so we'll come to the role of politics or the role of politicians in this whole thing. But yeah, but Alfred, you are the data guy. I mean, let's interrogate this issue of jobs a little bit further with respect to, clamping down on Galamsey. Yes, I actually met a very senior government official like a year ago, and this conversation of Galamsey came up, and then he asked my opinion, and I said, left onto me, the gold should stay on the ground, because as Nee said, there are just some things that are priceless. Money cannot buy them, and the manner in which Galamsey is going is bordering around issues that are priceless. You cannot place a price tag on it, no matter how many jobs. But even if we grant that argument, is it a realistic argument?
Well, I think, I mean, first of all, I think like Neil was saying something around that, but Galamsey is because of bad governance, and it's not different from any of the other social issues that we faced in terms of, at least in terms of the approach that we've seen been trying to address the issue. I think it's a leadership failure. It's a lack of accountability. And like I said, that's why I said it highlights. When you look at it, you can compare to whatever other social issue, whatever issue that we've been facing as a country, and the approach that have been used. Like, so, for example, the underlying issue, right? The root causes are not tackled, and then you might find some shiny solutions here and there, or some PR driven solutions to try to do something to show that we are working or we are doing something. Sometimes some of these even provide an opportunity for cronies to even get procurement gigs, but it doesn't really address the main issue. And then the other thing is, in terms of our governance, the elite would complain. Like, they would complain briefly. They will try to mount some pressure here and there, and then they just go to sleep, thinking that the problem is going to solve itself, right? Because we've complained too much. Like, right now, there's a current group of complaints, right? You watch and see how it happens. So the political class, they know that. So you will see that over a little bit, then the whole issue will die down, right? They might do something to show that, oh, we are working. This issue, the complaints die down, and then the problem is not solved, right? And it also speaks to the fact that the accountability thing is not there, right? Because has government really accounted for all those things that it claims to have been doing to get rid of or to reduce Galamsey? Like, you think of things like Operation Halt, think of things like the drones, the $3 million drones that were bought to try to go and fly and see where the Galamsey is happening, and these are things that don't address the issue, because the issue isn't that they don't know where the Galamsey is happening. That's, you need to find drones to go and take photos and help you and to identify that. That's not the issue. The issue is the fact that you have a problem where they're highly connected people in society that are involved in it, and so the political will that Neil was talking about, and then of course the whole issue of the jobs, because people are basically seen as breadwinners. Now, traditionally, a lot of these mining communities, they feel that the big mining companies are not really doing much for them, and so Galamsey provides an opportunity for them to basically go and get the money themselves, right? And then these people are basically the breadwinners in the various families. So the other part of the issue is that you have to have an alternative income source that will be able to match that cash flow to be able to switch people's behavior, right? So we see government try to do this. I don't know what they call it, NALIP or something like that, national something about alternative income for miners, right? What happened to that, right? So nobody is really accounting for any of these different initiatives that taxpayers' money has been committed, including the World Bank money has gone into this. We borrowed money from the World Bank to invest in drones to do this stuff, and there is no accountability. So the problem just persists, but the underlying issue, the root causes, we don't get to it, and that's why we are here.
Yeah, but Alfred, you mentioned that the corporate mining organizations are not doing anything for the communities, and so people feel that they should go get the gold themselves, right? But as it turns out, and we will look at the revelations of the fourth estate, right? As it turns out, there are a lot of smaller companies, right? Not the size of the giant corporations that mine, but these are companies that are emerging, right, from politically connected individuals or even business guys in the country that are going to these mining locations and taking concessions and employing people under hazardous conditions to mine for them. So at the end of the day, it even seemed like the argument that the locals are benefiting from the mining has been defeated by these not so giant corporations, but they are not locally based companies either, right? So the jobs argument, I think, yes, there's some level of genuineness to it, but if you want to look at it critically, the people are still not benefiting from Galamsey.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you look at it, though. Like, so the people that are doing this Galamsey, like the people that are in there doing it, they feel they're benefiting from it. Of course, the broader community, that might be a questionable argument, right? But I think, regardless, the people that are there, there needs to be, at least the ones that are involved in it, there needs to be some kind of alternative sources of livelihood. But that's the one need to address it, because at the end of the day, like you said, the whole political angle of it, that's where the issue is, right? So I am there, I'm watching all these, like you look at the Port Estate, look at one person has like 15 companies that they are connected with, right? And this is somebody that was running to go into parliament. This week we had the speaker talk about even MPs being involved in Galamsey.
Yeah.
We heard from Professor Frimpong Boateng about the Jubilee House and even high-level politically exposed people that are doing Galamsey. So the issue is, at the end of the day, you cannot, no matter how you look at it, it comes down to that political angle, right? That's where the main thing here. And I think the other thing that I wanted to point out is we should also clarify that Galamsey doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't just mean that they don't have the license. There could even be people that are licensed that are doing practices that are illegal, right? So you could have somebody can take out concessions, but the practice that they're using and all of that, those could all be contributing to the illegal mining. So it's not necessarily just those that don't have license to operate. It is also people that have license to operate, but they're doing like illegal practices as part of that are not allowed by the license. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think the concept of Galamsey has to be clearly defined, because for me, it is any mining practice that is, environmentally destructive. That's my definition of Galamsey. But some people would bring the legal and illegal dimension. And as you said, whether it's legal or not, it's still the same methods and it's bringing about the same results. Environmental degradation. So Zita, I mean, I think you have some research experience in this area, I think. I don't know, your master's dissertation or something like that. What is your initial take, just in a few minutes, and then I can move on to Bernard. Yeah.
Chairman, you are giving Alfred a lot of airtime. We'll fight later. But my master's thesis looked at institutional framework for mining and institutional framework for mining in Ghana. And so I do side with what Alfred said regarding what is perceived as Galamsey. It is always perceived as those who do not have the requisite permit and are encroaching. But generally, this is a serious problem in Ghana. People go through permits, but in terms of institutional support to be able to mine in a way that does not destroy the environment, they do not have that, and that is a problem. And I'm glad we are talking about the links to politics, because of a political compromise. That is also a huge problem. Overall, it is the use of mercury and arsenic. And preparing, I watched a documentary on River Pra, and I'm like, this is a serious issue for a country where we believe that our bodies, our natural, bodies of water are inhabitants for deity. That is because for me, it's linked to indigenous practices in North America. I remember coming to Canada, and then there was a movement called Idle No More. And the Idle No More movement in Canada was also about environmental degradation. And so I remember making the connection of, Ghanaians seeing water bodies and even the earth as mother god, and there were restraints on days you could farm and the days you could not fish. My professors found that very fascinating, and my ability to make that interconnection between the African ontology when it comes to nature, and then the indigenous ontology when it comes to nature as well. So it is disturbing that we've gotten to a point where even the gods are no longer safe in their own home. To put it in a simple way, that it's just bad, and beyond the environmental degradation, the impact on life, the impact on life, and the fear that we will not have good drinking water in Ghana is problematic. And to talk about the birth defects, people don't know that exposure to these metals like mercury and arsenic leads to high levels of birth defects. And Ghana's health system is bad. And the people who will end up having children with special needs and children with special defects in these, mining areas are the ones already in the low income. So it's like you're already down and you're being trampled more because of that. And so, and again, just to land my plane and touch on something Alfred said, yes, you could have the license, but you could be engaging in activities that are illegal. For example, you're not supposed to mine 100 meters close to a water body, but they do it. And so you might have the license, but the practices, the way you're going about it is highly unethical and highly illegal. And I agree with the consensus. I don't know, this has gone beyond politics for me. And like somebody said, Ghanaians are not angry enough. Honestly, beyond Galamsey, looking at the state of the economy, looking at the looting of national resources, and just looking at the state of the country, I don't think Ghanaians are angry enough. We are too calm for everything that is going on in our country. We are only a nation of 34 million. We should be doing better on all parameters. And so this has gone beyond politics. And I hope we do not politicize this, because irrespective of the government that comes into power, we need to do something about this, because it is a state of emergency. It is impacting people's life. It is impacting people's ability to earn an income, and it is really serious.
Yeah. All right. I mean, Zita, you make very interesting comments there, and in fact, the issue about the indigenous approach to the land, right? And we pride ourselves with, our tradition. Ghanaians are always quick to mention and our culture. What happened to the culture? I mean, when we were in elementary school, we were learning about, as you mentioned, there were days of the week that people were tabooed from going to fishing. And it was all for the purpose of maintaining the environment, for sustainability. What happened to all that? Right. So
Yeah.
I think we have to get back in touch with our traditional ways of doing things, pick what has been good ideals, good values, but we've been carried away by Western development.
And that is why when people say that Africans, the colonialists say that Africans were backward, it is amazing, because our ancestors understood even the concept of environmental preservation even before white people caught on to it, in terms of even just this whole climate change and environmental related issues. Because if Tuesdays and Thursdays you are not, Tuesday fishing, Thursday as I say, yeah, so yeah, it's like the Thursday no farming, crop rotation, all those things was to preserve so we could have a sustainable life. But you see, Africans will hold on to everything foreign and demonize anything African. That is just our problem. And we don't even uphold. I'm not saying everything about our culture is good. Some aspects of our culture need to evolve, like, widowhood rights and all these other things. But in terms of this particular issue that I cited, that I mentioned in my master's class, I ended up getting an A in that class because my professor was fascinated about the way I could connect the Idle No More movement to indigenous practices that was happening in Ghana to preserve the land. And so, yeah, I agree with you. We need to go back to some of these practices, because they were supposed to sustain us. The earth is like, it sustains our living. And if we treat it anyhow and any way because of modernity and industrialization or whatever, we will end up losing, because our lives are on the line, and the life of everybody who lives in a mining area is on the line.
Absolutely. Well, Bernard, before I get to you, I have an aerial video that shows the level of devastation, and then you would also give me your initial comments. Right? Let me play this video and. Okay, so there's an aerial view of, I mean, of course, it hasn't covered the entire Galamsey devastated land across Ghana. This is just, a sneak peek of what is going on in that country. I mean, I'm in the environmental field, and I understand that sometimes with environmental issues, people have to begin to feel the impact before they take the clarion calls of professionals seriously. But I don't think it had to get to this level, because this issue of Galamsey, we've been ringing this bell for way too long. It's not a recent thing. We didn't have to wait for the Ghana Water Company to come out and say that their operations are threatened by Galamsey before we take it seriously. So Bernard, your initial comments, and then
Thank you, Dr. Agana. Yeah, it's truly sad what's happening in our country. And when I watched that video, I was almost brought to tears, because all the forest reserves that we had in our country, especially in the forest belt, it's like everything is under threat now. And just to even begin, I think it's very important we define clearly what Galamsey is, which is illegal mining. It's different from small scale mining, and it's different from corporate mining, which is what Goldfields and then Newmont have been doing since 2002. And then Goldfields has been in Ghana since 1993. So if you ask me, like you said in your initial submission, should the gold be made to stay in the ground? Probably not. I'll go about it in a different way, because Goldfields and then Newmont, they have been in Ghana since at least 2002. And we didn't hear some of these issues, right? We never had, I mean, some of us may not be that old to have an opinion on political issues, but the fact is, this was not a thing until about maybe 10 years ago when it started. And then it's like we've been tiptoeing, like Nee said, around the issue over all these years. And just even going back to tradition, today I was thinking to myself, the river gods, they've been unusually quiet, you know. And I mean, I say that on the lighter side, but I think if the river gods indeed existed, then they should have done something by now. Anyway, that is just a different argument altogether. Now, there are politicians trying to take politics out of this is not going to work. It's almost impossible to decouple politics from what is currently happening in the country. There are politicians who are hiding under the guise of small-scale mining. I mean, I don't want to mention names, but you know that there are people who claim to be juggernauts in the mining field. They are not organized along the lines of, say, Obuasi Goldfields or even Newmont, but they feel like they could rub shoulders with those people, and they call themselves licensed small-scale miners. But what they're actually doing is Galamsey. Most of the pits that the area view showed over there are connected to politicians. Now you hear terms like, this is this politician's pit, this is this leader's pit. Even chiefs in some of the communities do that, right? Okay. I didn't see that. So let me just finish my submission. Right. So all I'm trying to say is it's almost impossible to try to decouple politics and then Galamsey, because the very people who commit these, it's almost impossible. If you look at global geopolitics in developing countries, it's normally almost impossible to have somebody from within the community rise up and then start this and employ other people. It's always a powerful person from somewhere coming in and then employing people within the community. What we are doing, I listened to a very great submission. What is happening, what is unfolding before our very eyes? If we don't take time, it's going to be a threat to the whole country. Don't even get me started on the fact that when they say the last tree dies, the last human dies, it is true. And the forest, the rivers that you see, those are national public goods. I'm now delving into the space of economics right now. Those are national public goods, right? And if these are under threat, if we get ×2 of the pits or even the trenches that were shown in the area view, within the next 2-3 years, Ghana is going to be under serious threat. I'm telling you. And there are people, as naive as they are sitting in Accra thinking that this thing does not affect me directly. So it's not something that I really need to think about.
Well, they can afford what do you call it, mineral water to
Agana, that you are living in a fool's paradise. I'm sorry, but that's the only way I can put it. There was a woman who was saying that there's this woman called Share Me. She does a check in Accra, like she's very popular. You know, maybe even doing an advert for her. But I mean, yeah, that was just by the way. And there's a woman who had gone to fetch this muddy water, and they had to put about 10 pieces of alum in it for the debris to settle. And then after it settled, they use the water to wash that checker. Where do you think that checker is going to?
No way.
I'm telling you, you are consuming, nothing is growing in Accra. So you think the food is grown with mineral bottled water? You are naive, and then you are as dumb as can be. This is a serious issue. Sorry, I'm cussing, but you know, sometimes some of these things, if we are thinking that we will take our children outside of the country to go and have the best education, and you live in there, you don't know where your child is going to end up. Are you bringing your whole family here? Are you bringing your whole family to Canada? Are you taking your whole family to the UK? It doesn't make sense. You know, and in every economic transaction, you have to weigh the cost against the benefits. And no way are you telling me, with this plethora of health issues that Dr. Zita spoke about, Nee also mentioned some, Mr. Alfred also did mention some. You are telling me that the money that you are going to get, the immediate gratification, just because it's going to accrue to you personally, far outweighs what we could leave for future generations. Then you are not thinking well. I'm sorry. But if now, this is me, do we need to provide alternative sources of livelihood for people engaged in Galamsey? Absolutely yes. That goes without saying. That's a no-brainer. Do we need to impose stringent measures up to even 15 years in imprisonment when you are caught? My answer is again the same thing, yes. But then you need to provide alternative sources of livelihood. That is a serious discussion that we need to have. And then after we've had that, if you are still caught engaging in the practice, then we know that you are not getting anything less than 15 years. And that's the only way. Ghanaians, what we are scared about is punishment. Nobody wants to feel pain. Because if we continuously tiptoe around this, and you can't play politics with this. This is not something you play politics with. This is a national security threat. The direction this thing is going, Ghana Water saying that, look, and the thing is, mercury, it seeps through the ground. Before you know, it's everywhere in the country. And what are we going to do? Are we going to start importing water from other countries? Thank you.
All right. Well, I mean, the situation is dire. It's not something to be toyed with, right? And again, the outrage is not enough. I just feel that we are treating it lighter than what it is. And I mean, some of us have been cautioning this for a very long time. But I said, usually environmental issues do not really get home to people if they don't experience it. And it's quite unfortunate because we've seen this play out in other parts of the world with respect to other environmental issues where people have cautioned, and that caution has been thrown to the wind until the very last minute. And I hope that perhaps, you know, at this point, there will be some political will to really deal with the issue. But as you mentioned, you can't take the politics out of it because, first of all, the politicians are neck deep in this matter. And let me play what.
Chairman, before you do, quick one on Bernard, a pushback on Bernard on the large scale mining. Now, okay. I agree with you. I am inclined to agree with you that at this point we need to keep the gold, the bauxite, everything in the ground, mainly because Ghana leases to large scale miners for 30 years. That is why you're saying all these people have been in the country. Because per the constitution, large scale mining leases for 30 years. That is wrong. No government stays in power for more than 8 years. Secondly, only 10% of what is accrued from our large scale mining is kept at the Bank of Ghana for servicing equipment. Everything is taken out. The reason why the politicians are not doing anything about it is because they get something and they'll say, oh, we don't want Ghana to be an investor unfriendly. You know, it is not investor friendly. People will not come and invest in our mining sector. We need to look at the devastating impact of what large scale mining. Also, large-scale miners are supposed to uphold the corporate social responsibility outlined in the United Nations Declaration. They don't build schools, they don't build hospitals, they don't do nothing. And so it is as corrupt as the smaller scale mining. That is just a fact. But we can hide and say, oh, these corporations have been in Ghana for 30 years. 30 years of us getting absolutely nothing. No sane country should be leasing, per the Mining Act, leasing any land or a mining geographical area to a foreign company for 30 years. That is in itself is wrong. Everything is being taken out of the country. We don't own nothing. We are sitting in Ghana and these people mine. Canadian companies, US companies, they mine, they take everything away. The 10% that is kept at the Bank of Ghana is for what? Equipment. So I am inclined to disagree as somebody who wrote on the mining sector for my master's thesis. I disagree. I agree with you, Agana, that we should keep everything on the ground for now and revise our Mining Act in itself, because no sane person would give anybody, a foreigner, an intruder, their land for 30 years when you're not even in power for 30 years.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Dzita, and you keep me honest here. Maybe I'm not well versed in the subject of mining, but are large-scale mining companies allowed to do open top mining, or they are allowed to do just deep ground mining? They are not supposed to leave any pits. And because I mean, I've seen videos, I've not been there physically, but in gold fields, all I know is that they mine under the ground and not surface mining like we see with Galamsey. Is that right?
Yes, I do not deal with the technicalities. I review the laws and how the law is done. But even if they're doing that deep mining itself, it is still destructive to the environment.
Right. I'm just saying that because of the comments you put in the chat. I just wanted to clarify that.
Sometimes they create holes. Per my research, there are holes that are created that allow illegal miners, people in the villages, dig deeper, follow the trail, because they don't get geological services. Large scale miners get geological services to help them navigate where a specific resource is. So the illegal mining, people often who do not have permit often follow the trail of the large scale miners, and that is in existing literature.
So, and Dr. Agana, just 30 seconds. Dr. Zita, I don't not to even prolong this whole issue, but I was going through Goldfields financials, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I was in another discussion. I don't think I agree with you, the fact that they don't carry out their corporate social responsibilities, because from their books, the amount that they are paying in taxes, I mean, that is something that they have to do. And what they have done in Obuasi by way of corporate social responsibility is breathtaking. I honestly believe they could do more for a company that has been in existence in 1993. I think they can do more, but to say they are not doing what they are supposed to do, I don't think I agree with that. Yeah, I just thought to say that.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. Well, so let's rest this issue and then
one point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
I think if we say we should let the gold sit in the ground, I think that's a little extreme, right? And think of gold as a key export earning income for us, right? And also think about the contracts that we have with these, like you yourself said, 30 years or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what the current contract with Goldfields and all the other mines are in terms of so I mean, there's a lot of contract implications. But I think even earlier, somebody also made the point that mining was happening. I don't think Galamsey got to the level that it has gotten to right now, right? So I think we can maybe come up with these discussions without, like, I guess, these extreme let the gold remain in the ground, because the implications on our balance of payment, for example, is significant, right? And we rely, like, especially now with cocoa not doing so well. Again, that's also linked to Galamsey, right? But at least part of it is linked to Galamsey. But cocoa, the export earnings from cocoa has been going down, so we cannot afford to not have gold earnings as well. So I think just a point for us to keep in mind.
All right. Okay.
Dr. Ghana, that is going to be very catastrophic to our bottom line because we make a lot of money from gold.
Yeah. So for instance, when I said the gold should stay in the ground, it's supposed to be provocative, right? And to provoke a conversation, because if you ask me why I suggest that the gold should remain in the ground, then I'll give you the reasons why. And perhaps that is going to lead us into conversations about, okay, what is the most sustainable way of getting the gold out? So, in fact, it's a radical opinion, but I'm not sticking to it, right? I'm open to conversations about how the gold could be. But yes, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be taken literally. Yeah, but
no,
anyway,
but
so
it's good. Sometimes it's good to use that approach because once you say that, then people are like, "What? No, we need to talk about this."
Yeah,
and it leads to deeper discussions that will probably produce long-lasting solutions. So it's good.
Yeah. All right. So let's go into the politics of this because the Speaker of Parliament commented on this. So let's hear him, and then we'll listen to other politicians and talk about what the approach is going to be in addressing these issues, because absolutely we cannot take the politics out of it. This borders on the ability of the government of the day to address. This is purely the responsibility of government, if you ask me. So we cannot really take the politics out. So let's listen to them and come back and talk.
Alban Bagbin has revealed that some members of parliament are involved in illegal mining. Parliament has been debating the Galamsey menace as part of a two-day emergency sitting of the House. The Speaker, after hearing members on both sides argue about the failure of the state to address the problem, urged the MPs to refrain from illegal mining activities.
Those participating in the Galamsey, if we take census, some of you will be there. And the people you are talking to are aware. It's not that they are not aware, they are aware that some of you are participating in it. So please, first, desist from doing it yourself. Don't go to them for the money for your campaigns. Don't go to solicit their votes. Let them see you work. Truly, it's a disgrace that we've gone to this far. Look at the water.
So is remonstrance the best approach? He's this sort of more of a reproach of people who are engaged in this. But is that the way we are going to? Should he name and shame them rather than speaking in coded terms? Especially that I assume he probably knows some of the individuals engaged in this act, right? But let's hear the MPs themselves, and then again we'll come back.
And the culprit will be mentioned. In fact, we are ready to debate now. That we will debate this matter and the culprit will be mentioned. In fact, we are ready to debate now. If we are to look and investigate both sides of the house, you have had the opportunity to rule this country before. I can tell you, you polluted the water more than us. You polluted the water more than us. So let's get matters straight.
Speaker, this is as a result of Galamsey. And he is the Minister for Defense. The President of State is President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So if the President has failed, he should admit so. And if he has failed as a Minister for Defense in tackling Galamsey, he should admit so. It is wrong for him to cast insinuations and aspersions and creating impressions that somebody is making political statement. The executive power of state is with the President. And you are the Minister for Defense. If you can tell us that you cannot deploy the military to stop Galamsey, but you can deploy the military to stop the exportation of maize, and so we should clap for you. Mr. Speaker, the issues we are talking about, they are serious issues. Our livelihood is threatened.
Okay. Well, there's a lot that I would agree with the majority leader here, but are they literally engaging in what Americans would say a pissing contest, right? You know, but I mean, I'll give you the first word on this. Like, just watching the political scene, is this a very responsible approach to talking about a very important issue such as this?
It's a very sad approach, right? Because this is an issue where the truth is only one, right? And we need to stop this. You polluted the water more than us. They did. If they even did that, they were put. Ghanaians voted against the NDC and put you in charge of managing the affairs of the economy. And now we are at the position where even our cocoa uh, is being threatened, and our river bodies are being threatened. It's bad. It's worse than it was. So you cannot at this point be playing, the pissing game. I'm very sad, disappointed because I really think we wouldn't solve this problem, and it will go on. What they will do is still as much as money, they will be so corrupt that they can in a way inoculate themselves against this problem, and that's it. They wouldn't solve the problem for the average Ghanaian, and that's what saddens me. We had a report that came out by a former minister, saying that certain people in government, high-ranking people, were engaged in Galamsey. And what did the president do? He actually started a campaign, or the government, if it's not the president, the government started a campaign to discredit this guy. So you look at it, and it's like they know what they have to do, but I don't know if it's the political funding. I don't know if it's just their greed and corruption. Everybody is running away from the truth, and the truth is, we have to stop it. And if we stop it, some people are going to lose financially, and that's what they don't want to do. So all this blame game is funny and it's sad. And if it continues, we will have huge problems. And it's very disappointing that we have leaders like that who cannot put their differences aside and tackle a problem which is as serious as this.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, Alfred, you could hear the speaker basically appealing to those who are engaged in it to stop. I mean, are those words going to be taken seriously? Is that the approach to really getting, politicians to stop this act? Or, I mean, how do you think we should address this? Is this?
Well, I think we are past the stage of speaking in generic terms, right? I think the approach, like the fourth estate approach, where people were named in there, and then people, if they're asking for accountability, they know who to talk to. Now, clearly, from the way the speaker was speaking and the majority chief whip and also the minority leader, all those that we heard from, it's clear that they all know who is involved in this Galamsey. So the issue, and this is important because when we talk about solutions, we've heard about some technological solutions and all of that. We have to keep that in mind, that the issue is not that they don't know who is doing the Galamsey or where the Galamsey is happening. So that's not the issue that we're trying to address. The issue is actually going to address it, right? And so they all know, so I think that if the politicians are serious about this, right, and they want to deal with this, it's not a matter of speaking in generic terms anymore. We are past that stage. Like I expect some more radical approaches to this if we're going to really demand accountability. And I think of the other thing is you can trace all of this back to a political financing, though, right? And that's a very important point, because like right now we're going into elections. We have no idea who is funding any of these politicians. Like some of them will come and make, like they have this thing, they say, oh, just donate to this short code, just to show that there's maybe soliciting funds from the public. That is never declared as to how much they actually raise. And so this whole thing of illegal mining and the fact that, they're highly connected people that are involved in this, but we cannot really do much about it. It all comes down to our political financing. Who did they finance like that, such that they have so much power that these people are basically untouchable? And you mentioned the whole issue of Professor Frimpong Boateng. Like, this was a minister, in the at least in the first term, right? He came up, and then this was the government. And I also talk about the issue of accountability, because this was the Interministerial Committee on Legal Mining that the president put together. This was a committee of cabinet. What happened? He came up with a report, and then they started playing technicalities with it, even to the point when you read the presidency's response, they said, oh, he gave the letter to the chief of staff at an informal meeting. And so what? This is a president that has promised to put his presidency on the line. Is it the time to play technicalities when, highly connected, politically exposed persons have been identified as being involved in Galamsey? They decided, oh, he didn't have evidence, or he didn't come with evidence. Even what's his name, the Joy FM reporter, Erastus Asaredonko, he himself, even that guy can give them a list of people, a list of highly connected people that are doing it, if there is a political will to go after those people. But again, you trace all of it and it comes back to the financing. Who were they financing? How have we become so much, have they had so much power now that they cannot even be touched, right? And so the issue persists. And earlier when I think somebody had mentioned about the justice and maybe jailing people and all of that. Now, even if you do that, you would see that what's going to happen is going to be the people that are working, like the ordinary people that are working there, that are going to be the victims of that. And then the politically exposed person, the ones that are
the owners of the equipment and the mines, yeah.
Yes, they're not going to be touched, because again, who are they financing and why are they so powerful? So it's all connected, right? Like it's all connected. But I think it's really time for we have really gone past the time of speaking in generic terms, and we have to really name people. Like, this person is involved. The speaker knows which members of parliament are doing what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure the speaker knows. I'm pretty sure the MPs themselves, they know which ones are involved. That's why when you go to police, they say, oh, this is this person's concession. There was somebody like from the Fourth Estate investigation where somebody was had 15. Somebody was an aspiring MP.
I'll share that with you guys pretty soon. I'm just going to share. Yeah, let me. You know what? Let me just go ahead and do that. Let me share their Twitter page, right? And we'll just quickly go through the revelations that they have put forward so far, and the politicians that have been, connected to this whole thing, right? Look, can you guys see my screen now? Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, so this is their Twitter page. So, Woon to me, Kumasi Mayor, these are all, NPP politicians. I mean, not necessarily to pick on the NPP per se, but they are the ones in power, and it so happened that their politicians are the ones that are connected to this so far. I'm trying to find a way of making it bigger, right? But anyways, yeah. So the thing is, they are mining in forest reserves, right? So it's not only the mining, but these are also protected areas. Now, if you guys will recall, the first revelations about mining forest areas was associated with Sir John when he died. And apparently he had been given licenses to certain companies, and what they described at the time was that they were only prospecting. But the question is, if it's a forest reserve, why would you even prospect for gold? Because it's not supposed to be touched. So whether there's gold there or not, it's immaterial. So why would you even prospect for gold to begin with? So, I mean, because when you said why were they giving licenses to people to mine in forests, they said, no, we're mining, we're just prospecting. But what's the point in prospecting in an area that even if you find gold, the law wouldn't allow you to mine? But these are the issues that the Fourth Estate has revealed, right? Now, yeah, there's a guy here with multiple companies operating in diverse forests across the Ashanti region, right? So, and then it says that he donated 3 saloon cars to the Ghana Armed Forces in 2020, while an official of, okay, so this is the official of the mining company, built a 10-bed hostel for the Ghana Armed Forces at Michelle Camp, right? So somehow the military has also been compromised, right? Again, so Wuntimi, who is the Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, is prominently figured in this revelation, right? These are other. So this company belongs to chief executive of Wassa East District. I think he's the chief executive of Wassa East, right? Emmanuel Boachi, you know. So Mr. Pine, a former Ashanti regional secretary of the NPP and a current mayor of Kumasi, he, in fact, the Fourth Estate reports that when there was a tree planting exercise going on, right, he participated in the whole process, you know, encouraging people to plant trees, yet he was mining in forest reserves. I mean, these are the people that are our leaders in Ghana. So, Alfred, I don't know if you had concluding, you were talking when I interrupted with this, but if you have anything to add before I go to Bernard and Zita, but otherwise, again,
I think, even on that tree planting thing, that's the other part that I was talking about, the alternative livelihood, right? So the idea is that they're going to give these people, like some of these people that were previously illegal mining, plant trees, but how much money are they going to pay them? And is that going to really be similar to what the cash flow that they were seeing from mining? So is that going to fundamentally change their behavior, right? So again, this becomes, the whole thing of like, we're just using some solutions that don't really address the underlying issues, because maybe somebody might get some contract somewhere to lead this, but yeah, that's just on that point. But I will let others speak.
All right. Yeah. So Zita, the politicians are neck deep in this, as we could see from the report of the Fourth Estate, right? And I have another clip of the minister for the minister for forestry or mines, complaining that people who are politically connected are involved in a way that it makes their work difficult. But my question is, is the situation that helpless,
It is helpless. That's why we are saying the ordinary Ghanaian is not angry enough, because those who are supposed to do something about it are involved. We all see the way, and I don't mean to pick on Wuntumi, but we all see how he touts himself from the audacity that he carries himself and the things that he say publicly. And like Alan Bagman was saying, like, who is funding your political campaign? Because I fund it, you owe me something. Because beyond the world of politics, people don't do you a favor for free. Anybody does you a favor, you are supposed to return that favor. So we are neck deep into it. And it is the political entanglement that makes this whole issue very problematic. And for me, even beyond it got to this stage of even Galamsey. For me, even from the perspective of the Mining Act in itself in Ghana, it's problematic. To me, it's problematic. The way we go about granting leases to large-scale mining companies and their invasion in our country, it is an extension of imperialism. I disagree with Bernard that, they've done something. It is imperialism, because no African mining company can come to the Western world and mine and sign the same contract that we have. It is an extension of imperialism, and that is where it started from, and it has now degenerated into Galamsey, whereby our politicians and people who are connected to politicians are neck deep into it. We all know that the extractive sector is a lucrative sector. There is money to be made. Even as a woman, like the average Ghanaian girl, if you tell her that you work in the mining, you work in goldfields, listen, you've got her already. You don't need to do much. We have the mindset that men who work in even those industries already have money. So yes, it is the compromise of politicians, it's the compromise of our lawmakers that have made this thing an impossible task to kind of clamp on. Because like Alfred said, when we talk about imprisonment, it's the lay person who is like the dog of the big whip who are going to be carried. And one of the things that is problematic is the fact that you go on these Galamsey sites and they are saying that people there are armed. There are armed people on these sites. So I was watching the Joy FM documentary and subsequent discussion, and some of the district offices, mineral commissions were talking about they are even afraid. And now one time they called the police to go with them because they saw 100 people mining in a site that is legal. Nothing was granted, and they get there and they see armed people.
Oh yeah.
So yes, and so it is so bad that even those who are supposed to enforce the law, although majority are compromised, those who even follow due procedure are afraid of their life, because when they got to the site, they saw armed people guarding the activities that is going on.
Yeah.
Honestly, those in power don't care about Ghana, because in their mind, their wives and their kids are already here. For most politicians, they are just one, and that is why this whole thing of you need to have a Ghanaian citizenship to run for political office. We need to extend it. Not only do you need to have a Ghanaian citizenship, all your wife and your children need to also have Ghanaian citizenship, because these politicians, their kids in America, Canada, UK, they have. It's just one documentation away from them leaving the country. So for me, it's the political involvement. It is murky. It is many people have been compromised, and these, even some of them might not even be in parliament, but they are affiliated. Their political campaign and their political aspirations are funded by these people who are giants in the Galamsey sector. As a result, it becomes difficult. And this whole militia aspect that is connected to it, such that even when you go and you take the police to clamp down, the police are afraid for their life, because these territories are being guarded by heavily armed men.
Yeah.
We are treading on dangerous grounds, but I don't know if it is a lack of awareness that the ordinary Ghanaian is not aware of these things, or they are willfully ignoring these things. But Ghana is no longer looking safe. Not safe in terms of, just security, but even our livelihood, ability to have access to good drinking water and just be able to live in a country, because we are only 34 million. We shouldn't be in this condition. We shouldn't be, and we are blessed. For a country like Ghana, we are blessed. If we can horn ourselves and take pride in ourselves, refine the Ghana Mining Act, make sure that we are impressing on all our colonizers who are coming into our country to dig our gold, to dig our bauxite, and for 30 years, and do something and say they are doing corporate social responsibility. It starts from there. We need to reform the Ghana Mining Act and then clamp down on all these illegal activities.
Okay. Yeah. So look, Zita, you are absolutely right, because we are not only going to end up with a very devastating environmental situation in our hands, but we are potentially building cartels. We may have a cartel problem with this illegal mining, because look, anything that has to do with a lot of money, you can be sure there's going to be armed militia involved. And I'm just going to be quite honest and say that to address this problem, there's going to be significant bloodshed, because there's going to be resistance from the perpetrators of this act. And maybe, state-sanctioned violence has to be used to end this whole thing. And I'm not trying to be, pessimistic in terms of the way it should be addressed, but just looking at examples of similar situations elsewhere, where cartels have developed as a result of some of these illegal activities that involve a lot of money, it is always hard to address them.
Again, I have a quick question. Do you think we cannot get to a point where we can still have this mining activities in a very regulated environment? You think we cannot do that, and we have to get to this extreme? Because I feel, I mean, we can still be hard, really radical, but make sure people follow what they have to do, right? And maybe that should solve the problem. I don't know if you think we
Yeah,
can get to that
you
point.
know, with the open pit mining is difficult, right? It has to be sort of deep shaft mining like the giant corporations do. And usually with those types of mining, the initial capital is a lot of money. So it's not very likely that local individuals, maybe we can set up a system where maybe these companies will pool their resources and have a more sustainable approach. But if it is going to be a communal approach to mining, right, where others are advocating community mining, where it's going to be small scale, if it's open pit, it's going to be disastrous because the gold is spread across the land. So you have to really dig around to get it. I mean, it's not like something like diamonds that maybe you go and they, even with diamonds, their open pit miners are equally, devastating. You see a whole giant pit, right? So with the type of gold that we have in Ghana, the fact that it's spread across the land, it's really going to be difficult to have a very sustainable, small scale approach to that type of mining. So it's either you invest heavily and do deep mining, which might have to involve giant corporations with a lot of money. But if it's a small scale mining, I just don't see how it's going to be sustainable, to be honest with you. Right. So, I mean, yeah, but Bernard, let's revert to the politics that we have been talking about, right? This blame game. The Speaker of the minority leader we saw in that video is shifting the blame to the current government. He says they have the power of government, right? They have the authority now to do whatever they want in terms of enforcing any regulation. I mean, is he right? Is the government's hand tied?
I mean, yeah, Dr. Ghana, this is not the Speaker of Parliament saying it. You just showed a picture from the Fourth Estate, a list of politically exposed people. Do they belong to the ruling party? Yes. Did you see any NDC member in there? No. Am I saying or implying that NDC MPs are not perpetrating this? That is not what I am saying. But the evidence that is before us is compelling enough to know that this crime, this heinous crime, I call it crime, is perpetrated by the members of the ruling party. But before I even get into my submission, I just wanted to ask Dr. Zita this. So this is my question. Let's say we revise our mining act and this large corporation mining is done by Ghanaians or they are owned by Ghanaians. Are you going to revise your stance on imperialism?
Go ahead with your submission, now think on your question.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, yeah. You see, the thing is, I just think Ghanaians in general, look at what is even happening in Accra. You mentioned Sir John. Sir John died and was bequeathing large parcels of land to his family in the Achimota forest. Until Sir John died, I didn't even know that people would have thought that, let me own a piece of Achimota forest. There seems to be this hatred for greenery and then the environment. Like when Ghanaians see a forest somewhere, then they just think that an apartment should spring up because they don't see what the trees are doing. And I think that's exactly what has been extended into the other regions. If it's a protected area, if it's a reserve, what do you understand by reserve? Why are you prospecting? Why are you looking for something that even when you find, you cannot take away? What is the point? And I'm telling you on authority that as of the time that they were saying that they were prospecting, they were actually mining. And that is a fact. They were just saying that it's all semantics. What do you mean by prospecting? right? And you see the cost of reclaiming that lost land, the aerial view that you showed, this is even getting me emotional. The cost of reclaiming that land, making sure that it's, the land can repair itself over time, but making sure that the mercury gets out of the soil and everything is going to take years. The cost of reclaiming all those parcels of land are way more than any money that you could ever get from it. You have people, when I started talking or when I was making my first submission, I wanted to mention Wuntumi's name, but I didn't know that the Fourth Estate had already mentioned his name. For legal reasons, I did not want to mention his name, right? But everybody knows. And Mr. Alfred, when I say that they have to impose stringent measures, including imprisonment up to 15 years, I'm talking about the people that we saw on screen. They are not above the law. None of them is above the law. But of course, the way our political system is set up, trying to get somebody like Wontumi behind bars legally when his party is in power is almost impossible, right? And that is why they are perpetrating what they are perpetrating. Now, even in your first submission, Dr. Ghana, you mentioned our obsession with Western development and then what's going on in the West. I'll go into a little bit of economics. What we are witnessing right now is what we call externality in economics. Just the production outcome is producing results that are having adverse or negative effects on somebody else. They could be positive, no, not adverse effects. They are having effects on somebody else who is not part of the production process. So they could be positive, they could be negative externalities. Now, what we are concerned about, if it was positive, I mean, that would have been a good thing. So negative externalities.
Yeah.
When you go into economics, you cannot talk about externalities without making reference to somebody called Atta Pigou. Pigou was a British economist, and then he proposed that whenever there's an externality, whoever is producing that externality tax them to the tune of the externality they are causing. So let's say if they were producing and the smoke was affecting people to the tune of, say, $100, then tax them to the tune of $100 until they fix it. Maybe they install a smoke chamber or whatever to exhaust it. But the thing is, are we going to say that because A can afford to pay B, then they should be allowed to hurt A? So that is a socially inefficient approach, right? And there's also somebody called Ronald Coase. He calls it the social cost. So when an individual or a business or a firm is trying to go into production, they do not consider the harm that they are going to be causing to others. So he is saying that there should always be that point where you reach some form of a private bargaining. And then if you need to relocate the people, let's say to a tune of $40, why pay them $100 when you can relocate all of them at a cost of $40? Now, all these things that I've said, right? All these things, these solutions that have been proposed or espoused in the literature, they do not work in the setting of Africa. Everything in Africa, specifically Ghana, defies economic logic. None of these are going to, and the world thinks that the biggest pollution issue or the biggest externality is actually the emission of greenhouse gases. That is not the case. Bro, have they seen Galamsey? Have they seen what's going on in Ghana? Right? So some of these things do not work. That is why it's very important that the government of the day intervenes. That is the only way, or that is the only scenario that I see this problem getting tackled. And when I'm saying that, and I just want to, rebut that point. When I say arrest and then imprison people, Dr. Ghana, you said, do we need to talk to these people? Mr. Alfred rightly said, we are past that point of talking to people. I'm pretty sure you could have sat Wontumi down and spoken to him, and whatever he thinks he wants to do is what he's going to do. So what are you going to do? Use the law and imprison him. It's as simple as that. Because if he imprison the guys on the pit, Wontumi will employ new guys. Is he above imprisonment? No, nobody is, even the president. And then it's laughable for him to say, I'm putting my presidency on the line, and the guy has mentally logged out since June. If anything will be done about this situation before the elections in December.
How did you come by that date since June?
Oh, no, he has logged out. Since June, he doesn't talk about the country, nothing. He's checked out. And these are last minutes. These are trying times. Everybody needs to make sure their families are fattened for the unforeseeable future. Maybe 4 years, 8 years, they don't know. So it's just a lot of looting going on right now.
Okay.
So that's all I just had to say about that.
Okay. Well, let's hear the minister for lands and mineral resources. I don't know the actual name. These names have changed over the years.
Honorable Jinapo.
Yeah.
Elements in the opposition and his party as well.
Up your enforcement measures.
Okay, let me see.
But the lands minister on the Super Morning Show earlier indicating that the fight is more often than not hindered by some elements in the opposition and his party as well.
Up your enforcement measures, you put in Operation Halt, you start to demobilize excavators and burn, if you want to call them, burn them, or demobilize equipment used for illegal mining. These same elements goes into the communities and tell them, look, when we come into office, we'll allow you to mine freely, indiscriminately. And this is on tape, it's on video, high-ranking opposition officers on video, on tape. You have another situation where when you ramp up your enforcement regime, then you have some elements, and I say this with qualification, not all, some elements in the ruling party who say, well, the minister is trying to, is taking measures which will cost us the elections, the minister's actions is going to result, or the government's actions are going to result in the ruling party losing the elections and this and that. And then the truth also is that you have elements too whom, when you clamp down on them, they will come to you and make a lot of noise about how the party is being too draconian on its measures against illegal mining. But from where I sit and from where government sits, we do not have to be perturbed by any of those considerations.
I mean, what is he saying? Should this be coming out of the minister in charge of this activity? Because he's saying that I honestly don't really get his point, to be honest with you. I don't know if somebody really understands what he's trying to say.
I think he's almost resigning to fate here. Like, man, as a minister in Ghana, probably in your sector, the only thing you may not be able to do is to override the president, one, and then maybe change a woman to a man and vice versa.
Yeah.
If he wants to fight Galamsey, if Honorable Jinapo wants to fight Galamsey, he will fight it. And I'm telling you, he should stop giving the excuses of, we'll lose the elections, we'll do this thing. No, that's why we put you there. You are a young guy. Some of us, are observing you from a distance. You are a young guy. If you cannot do this, how do you expect the people who have outlived their future to be put in positions to curb this? Because you are young. You are a young man. Your kids are probably still young.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to the whole commitment of the government, because it doesn't seem like his government has a commitment, right? Otherwise, he's not going to be on air complaining about.
Again, I actually believe what he's saying. And I believe it from the point that he doesn't have the support from the president, who has ultimate support to go all in, right? So what he's trying to say is all true. There are constituencies that will come and say, hey, don't do this, and it goes into
he's not direct, right? Because if he's the minister in charge, and it seems like some other authorities are usurping that authority,
yes,
whose blessing are they getting? Right?
They are getting the president.
If he wants to name the person who is hindering his work, then he should go ahead and name the person. Right?
Dr. Ani, let me ask you this. Do you think this guy, we on this panel would have regarded him a hero if he dropped 2 names?
My point is, it goes to the president, right? If the president has given him the go ahead to do whatever it takes, right? Then he can do it. But he doesn't have it. And that's the problem, right? The government itself is not ready to fight this fight. They are not ready. And he's just saying, giving reasons why they cannot do it. right? So that's the issue there, and we have to get to the point as citizens whether we want to accept this reasoning. And no, we don't accept it, right? Just do what you have to do to solve the problems, and we don't want all these things. But the truth is, that's what he's facing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Alfred, were you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, it speaks to another issue with our governance where the only form of accountability really is to lose or win elections. That's basically what he's saying. So he's basically saying that they know that, this is the fight, but they're getting all these messages about, oh, if you do this, you could cost us the election, you could cost us the election. So that's really the measuring stick here. It's not about protecting the environment or, like looking at the devastating impact it's having on cocoa production and all of that. It's none of that. The real yardstick here is, win or lose elections. Because actually in the last election, when you listen to some of the ruling party people, they talk about this, that, they lost, certain MPs lost their seats. They lost certain, the gap between the two candidates closed a lot compared to 2016 because of the fight against Galamsey. Like they believe this, they have this in their mind that, and so now going into 2024, of course, and especially this year, all these things are coming up now. It's like, well, you have to really exercise restraint. So even if you're a minister, listen, we are in a country where even the vice president is saying that he doesn't have that much power because he's a driver's mate. So this is a minister of state, like, he's only one member of cabinet. And so if it is not the strategic direction of government that we're going to clamp down on this and solve this issue, the minister is not going to be able to. And he's being honest, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I think that's it. At the end of the day, our governance system is very vindictive, and it's also such that in other jurisdictions you can say, oh yeah, you are the minister, you have to. You are responsible for the sector. In our place, in our states or in our context, it's not like that. You of course you respond to somebody. We even know there are people that are not even members of cabinet that are even key decision makers in our country. And so, can he address this? He can address certain issues in the sector. But this whole thing, especially with the political connectedness and the fact that some of these people that are doing this are funding some of these politicians, and they have funded them to the point that you can't just get rid of them, right? Especially you're going into election, they're probably some of your main funding sources. And so that's where we've heard from Professor Frimpong Boate's report that there are people in the Jubilee House that are involved. Like some people have talked about even in the Chief of Staff's office and all of that. So a minister of state is not going to be able to unilaterally do much, right? I think that's just the reality. Is that the best? Of course not. It's the minister should be responsible for the sector. But this guy, I think he was just speaking the truth, even for the fact that he referred to his own party people. He said, I mean, of course, he didn't mention this, but he said, like, even within the ruling party, there are people that have these things. So I don't know. Like, I saw somebody made a tweet earlier this week that Galamsey is basically going to be like the drug trade in Latin America. Like,
exactly.
We basically might not be able to deal with it. And it's a bleak picture, but when you think about it and you think about the complexities and all of that, I think we probably might be heading there if you're not already there.
No, I agree, absolutely. And that's what I meant when I said we were building cartels, right? It's along the similar thinking that, that's exactly what is happening with Galamsey now, because
these people have guns, right?
Because of the cycle, right? They are funding politicians and making more money and wielding guns, and they would protect their activity at the cost of people potentially losing their lives. So the sooner we address it, the better. But we are empowering. The longer it takes, we are giving them a lot more power, and it's going to require a lot more to address the problem the longer we wait. But maybe I just wanted Zita to. But I mean, from the minister, right? It speaks to the general lack of political will of the present government to address this issue. Basically, that was his frustration, right? Because he is insinuating that he doesn't have the power, and who grants that power, if you like, right?
And I think, sorry, just one more point. And the other thing is, if it was another jurisdiction, the minister could resign based on that.
Based on that, yes.
It's in our politics, it doesn't work like that. You don't just resign, because even if it's a matter of principle that you don't agree with the approach because you really want this to be done, and it's not, and you're getting frustrated. In other jurisdictions, the minister would resign to make a point. In our jurisdiction, that's never going to happen. Have you ever had a minister resign, right?
Yeah.
Because so that this is also the differences that we see again in the different politics, for sure.
Dr. Ghana, can I also make
Yes.
Yeah, I may be belaboring this point, but now that we've had this feisty discussion, I think the core of the problem will be the source of the political funding, right? And the reason I say that is maybe I'm just saying, oh, make sure you investigate one to me and bring him. But this guy has probably pumped millions of dollars into their campaign, more money than even Abu Jinapor could even think of pumping into their campaigns. So who is the president literally or rationally going to back, right? So, and that is, so, I mean, I may have to revise my earlier opinion. There isn't really much he can do if the president is not wholly backing him. He can't override the president. A way of overriding the president might be to resign, which is not happening, as our Alfred explained.
Yeah. All right. Well, Zita, any last comments on this?
Yes, I wanted to respond to the question that Bernard asked, that if local miners who have the capacity to mine on a large scale, will it still be imperialism? And it is. Imperialism is not just having the representative of the colonizers. Africa is still an imperialist continent being run by people who are puppets of the Western world. We run a democracy that is modeled on Western ideologies and does not include our cultural goals and where we want to be. Our economy, we go ahead, structural adjustment program, we copy and paste. It is still imperialism. It is not having the white man on our neck that makes it imperialism. It is even our own. So long as it is a Ghanaian who is acting not in the best interest of Ghana and is seeking his own interest and an interest that to a large extent benefits the Western world, it is imperialism. Okay. And my final words on it, honestly, I wrote my master's thesis on mining as a mistake in the sense of the word. I always wanted to write on the importance of gender equity in education. Unfortunately, I didn't have a supervisor in my institution that was versed in that area. So I was forced to go with mining because the only professor in the university that did anything close to Africa was looking at the extractive sector. So it is interesting that more than a decade after graduating, we are circling back, because I graduated in 2014, so it's a decade. We're circling back to this issue of artisanal mining and the unethical and the illegalities that is involved in it. Like we said, it is the militia part that is threatened, because we know that anything that, and gold is gold. Gold is gold. Like minerals that is real money. People who have connections to any form of mineral, it is bloody. And we also, which country is that I can't remember. There's an African country that is a bloody diamonds. There's
it's Liberia, Sierra Leone, the diamonds. Yeah.
Right. We see how bloody it can get. So I am inclined to agree with all of you that the earlier we tackle this, the better, but we are creating a beast. And if you're not careful, this beast will, blow up and become anonymous in a point whereby it will consume everybody, even those who believe that they are part of the political class, that they are untouchable.
Yeah.
Whole thing you're creating will spill over and consume everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the beast analogy is sort of the most appropriate exact way to describe this situation. Yeah, we are literally feeding a beast.
A monster.
Yeah, big one. And look, quickly, I want us to just have a conversation about the two manifestos that, the NDC, NPP have delivered their manifestos, a lot of promises in there. But my question is, have these two manifestos neutralized each other with too many promises that, in my opinion, and maybe in the opinion of others, are just too lofty to be realistic? What is your takes on these quickly, and then we'll wrap up? Maybe Bernard, if you want to take this first,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I don't know. You guys should keep me honest here. Maybe I'm just not thinking the way people should be thinking, but I don't know who came up with the concept of free. unless
Yeah.
people who are incapacitated or people who, you know, I don't know, let me stick with incapacitated. Unless you are incapacitated, why should everything be free? Free this, free that. And that runs within the two manifestos. Why? If you are telling me that people with disabilities, right, you are going to help them with educational expenses and things of that nature, that makes sense to me as an economist. But if you are telling me that, you know, one of the happiest things that happened when Mahama was president was the cancellation of the nurses' allowance. Nobody gives anybody money for going to the university. These nurses, they emigrate from the country, right? They migrate to other countries at a rate higher than anybody else. So why is it that these are the same people that when they are in school, we are paying them allowance? I've never come to terms or agreement with the fact that we have to pay nursing students allowances to be in school. So everything that is free, I've actually read the NDC manifesto. I've spent more time with it. The NPP manifesto, I looked at the abridged version, and I think some of the things that they are promising, free this, free that, honestly, I don't know where the money is going to come from. For a country as broke as Ghana, maybe they are going to work some magic. Sikagari, maybe there's some Sikagari somewhere that they have eyes on. Because honestly, I don't know where the money is going to come from.
Yeah.
Free. If you are telling me that this one, I don't completely agree with, I'm just going to give highlights. The NDC manifesto is just basically an extension of the free SHS to the first year in college. And the reasoning is that it's supposed to insulate them against the shock when they suddenly have to pay for their,
right? They call it it's called no stress fees.
No stress fees for the first year. Exactly. So the idea being that when you're coming from free, you know, we just want to cushion you, insulate you against the instant shock of having to pay fees once again. I mean, free SHS is not free, but let's just not go in that direction.
Yeah.
So you know, we are just trying to help you for the first year, and then you take. Why are we creating problems where there are none? It's the same with the free SHS. Even when we're paying, they temporarily had to send us home because they'll tell you that, oh, there's a food shortage. That is when we're paying. So how are we not paying now and expect it to be better than when we were paying? Why are we creating problems? Streams of income, other things. I'm going to abolish this. I'm going to abolish that. Every well-meaning economist is going to tell you that, look, introducing a new tax is very, very painful. And then when the people buy into it and they accept it, taking it away is a bad idea. So for some of the taxes, I think they need a review. The betting tax, I think it should be brought to 3% or 5%, but taking it away entirely, that is not something I really agree with.
Yeah, bet is income, right? If you win a bet, it's income.
Exactly, it's income to. I don't agree with them taxing the capital. For that, I've made my stance on that clear. That you deposit money and you decide that no, today I have to buy gobet. You want to go and take your 100 CDs back, and you are taxing that amount that I didn't use to buy. That doesn't make sense. That's an inefficient way. People are going to find
the earnings. The earnings is what should be taxed.
Exactly. So, you know, they just do things, they don't think them through, and then, you know, let's just roll it out because it sounds nice on paper. So, and then before I derail from my thoughts, so something like the COVID tax, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to split hairs here, but I think we should find a way to rename it to maybe health facilities enhancement tax, you know, something like that.
You know, just quickly on that, I had this conversation with somebody. I said, as you said, it's difficult to remove a tax once the government has already established sort of a revenue stream for it. But we are so brazen in Ghana that we don't even hide, right? This tax could have still existed under a different name.
Exactly.
Just out of respect.
Exactly, for the people that, look, I know I respect you. I don't want you to see COVID when COVID has been
on as a tax.
Exactly. So let's just say every money that comes from it, we are going to use it to refurbish our health facilities and things of that nature. Just give it a different name and still keep it in your streams of income. You know, that's something that.
All right. So Bernard, I mean, I think So
I'll just yield the floor to others.
Yes, I mean, Alfred has become more of an expert on these manifestos. So we wanted to have you last week, but we couldn't. So I mean, give us your take on with respect to this question of. I feel, have they neutralized each other with their many promises to some extent that it doesn't even make sense anymore to have a manifesto because,
I think at the end of the day, if they don't do any of this stuff, what's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the fundamental thing, and that is what informs a lot of these promises, because we know what the current situation is. We know the country is in a cost of living crisis. There's so many issues happening. We want to tell the voters what they want to hear. So that's why you hear all these things about scrapping taxes, when these taxes are very integral part of the government's own fiscal consolidation efforts as part of the IMF program. So all these taxes were introduced to close towards something, because the argument had been made that compared to our peers, tax to GDP ratios was one of the lowest, and so we needed to do something about that. So here's the case: people have complained about these taxes, and so let's scrap them. And in doing that, the other thing that we are doing is we are also making a lot of promises that are going to expand government's spending, right? So we have all these promises that are going to expand government's spending. You have a debt overhang. Going into 2026, some of your external debts that you are suspended now you're going to start paying them. Well, how are you preparing for that? None of them are talking about that, because at the end of the day, it's boring stuff that nobody wants to hear, boring economic stuff that nobody wants to hear. But these are real things that are going to come up. And then, of course, the NDC, I think the candidate puts a lot of pressure on himself by saying that within 100 days, I'm going to do this, I'm going to scrap these taxes. Why not get into office first? Promise that maybe after my first year, we're going to review these taxes. If you say you're going to scrap these taxes in the first 100 days, COVID levy and the e-levy alone are supposed to generate about 6.4 billion in 2025. This is not referring to the government's bad forecasting earlier on e-levy, but like looking at more realistic, it's about 6 billion that is supposed to be generated. How are you going to plug that hole, right? When you already have all these other spending, you say you want to do a 24-hour economy, you're going to offer incentives and all of that. How is that going to be like? How are you going to fund those incentives, right? And then when you ask these questions, you hear things about, we're going to appoint less ministers, but appointing less ministers is not going to plug that hole.
Yeah.
Because if you appoint less ministers, does that mean that if, say, for example, you consolidate two ministries, communication and information, the staff that is there, the goods and services budget that they have, the capital expenditure budget, are you going to consolidate everything? They're still going to be doing their line of work. It's just that you have only one minister instead of two ministers. So really, what you're saving might be the compensation of the ministers, but that's not going to be that much in the grand scheme of things. So you've already created a $6 billion, 2 billion cedis gap, right? Yeah. So the promises are such that I think that but it comes down to what is the level of accountability. So if they don't deliver it, the NPP can sit on platforms and say that we accomplished 80% of their promises. Who is checking that? Yeah. Like, how do they determine that this promise? Like, you can read through the NPP manifesto. One of the things that the NPP promised even in 2016 was they were going to grow the economy by double digits. The economy has never grown by double digits before. That in itself already is a failure. So how do you come and say that you've accomplished 80% of your promises, right? So this whole idea is that, and there seems to be a lot of reliance on the private sector, right? Even among both parties, even the 24-hour economy, the government taking up, private sector taking up government spending according to the vice president or the NPP. What is the state of the private sector right now? The private sector cannot even get credits.
Non-existent.
So it's business. So if you say that a lot of your things are going to be hinged on the private sector, well, I'm sorry, but the private sector is not even in itself in not a good shape. Then we have this whole idea of introducing a new tax regime under the NPP is what the vice president is proposing. right? And then they all these talks about the Ghana card and the fact that it's going to revolutionize taxes. We've linked the Ghana card to tax data since 2021, right? The Ghana card number right now, that is everybody's tax identification number. So they say, oh, 84% of people now have a tax identification number. That is not the important metric. How is that translating into active tax-paying population? That is the most important thing, right? So when you make all these things and you say, they talk about the Ghana card stuff as if it's like, it's a new thing that we're going to do. We've already done it. We're not seeing the implication on tax compliance. So what is different? So if you go about granting a tax amnesty and say that, okay, I'm going to start a new tax system, I'm going to grant a tax amnesty. On average, the GRA collects about 30% of the tax debts. So if you say I'm forgiving all of it, okay, that money is not coming in now. And with the hope that it's going to inform compliance. Well, it's not, because you did a tax amnesty in 2018 and you're still talking about tax amnesty right now. So I think both parties have made promises without really thinking about the situation that the country is in and the situation, the type of economic situation or fiscal situation that they're going to meet in 2025, right? And so we have all these things, and now it's just turned into a battle of, they say someone says upgrade, one says reset. It's basically a joke, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's all more like, like all these trying to throw punchlines and all of that. But the fundamental issues are not being addressed. Like, have they talked about the IMF program? What are they going to do about the IMF program?
Yeah.
Right. And then also how are they both going to prepare the country so that come 2026, when the external debt servicing resumes, how are they going to do that? Like, is there going to be some kind of sinking fund? I think the NDC maybe have mentioned a sinking fund because they've done it in the past. But really, there's a lot of fundamental things that are not being addressed in the manifesto. They just want to say things that people want to hear, right? Because at the end of the day, they can themselves declare success. They can say that, we've accomplished 90 or 80% of our promises. And nobody can arrest them. Nobody can do anything. Because at the end of the day, the only measure of accountability, or the only metric for accountability, or the only yardstick is winning or losing an election. So they will just wait and then start throwing around numbers of things that they've done. So I think there's just a lot to dig in.
There's a lot. Yeah. So let me, and I think you have sort of ignited something in Bernard. I know he has something to say, but there's no time for that. So let me move
30 seconds, Dr. Agana, 30 seconds.
Let me get to Ni, and then
Ni, please, 30 seconds, please. So Mr. Alfred, the NDC established the sinking fund, the GIIF fund, and the stabilization fund. So it has been done before. So I don't doubt them doing it again. And then another thing, it will even be less than 30 seconds. The 24-hour economy is a game changer. For that, I can lay my life on it. But let's have
a debate about that. I don't think it is, but we can have a debate about that.
We have a conversation. I mean, listen, Bernard, if you took your invitation seriously, we would have had this conversation already. All right. Okay. So, Ni, what do you think about these manifestos? Just quickly, like, I mean, are they going to make any impact in winning voters over?
Yeah, we all know what the problem the country is going through. And one thing that's clear, that there's a lot of waste in this government, right? There's a lot of waste going on. And for me, one promise that has stuck with me is NDC promising to, one, get some of the corruption, the loots, everything. They have the oral something, trying to get some of this corruption thing back. And second thing is reduce expenditure, because we need to, as Alfred mentioned, we are not even paying some of our external debt, right? So if you are also promising that you're going to cut some taxes, then you need to raise more funds. And one way to do that is, one, reduce your expenditure. So I like that. I like that fact. But again, you're looking at the promise for the first year stuff, and I think the numbers is feasible, right? But again, they have to make sure that they are also doing the right thing when it comes to, you cannot just promise us you are reducing expenditure and come and do the opposite. Because Akufo-Addo, his presidency alone is getting more than like 2 billion. I think African check the numbers, but like 2 billion cedis a year, which is from like 700,000 from 2016. I know inflation and all that, but that jump is too serious about reducing expenditure, and he's also already talked about reducing certain benefit for some of the ministers and stuff like that. All those numbers will add up. So if they are true to their words that we are really going to cut down on the kind of the waste that they've been, going on and on and on and on, if they are really going to be true to their words, I think it's doable. But for me, the main thing that stand out to me is I believe there's so much corruption going on in this government, and something needs to be done. Somebody needs to be held accountable. Something needs to be. We need to get some of this thing back. So for me, that stand out to me. I mean, I know there are a lot of policies going on the 24-hour economy, which I also believe that it can help, but I like the fact that they promise to go after some of these people, and also when they come and they also do bad things, I want the MPP to come and do the same thing to them, because we have to get to a point where these guys have to be, they have to be held accountable, and until we get to the point of accountability, they will just take us for a ride. These guys will come and just do 8 years, other people come and just do the same thing. So we need to get to the point, and that for me, that accountability, holding this MPP government, make sure they're accountable for some of. We all know there are a lot of bad decisions, bad corrupt deals that have gone on. So if they can do that alone, I'll be happy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, Zita, you took copious notes on the NPP manifesto. I mean, we had the opportunity to discuss it a week ago, not in much detail, but having listened to the NDCs as well, my point is, did these two manifestos focus on the most important things?
I've shared my thoughts on it. Like we said, some of the promises, because right now they are promises, some of them lack feasibility. They are lofty and some are good. Like, the Women's Bank, I think it's a good idea, because I've said that, more than 50% of women in Ghana are income contributing family members compared to men. Even though more men are educated than women and work in the formal sector, more Ghanaian women work in the informal sector and are income contributing family members. And so a Women's Bank is in the right direction, and some of those policies with the whole tertiary thing, like I said, we need to get back to the basics, onto basic education is standard across board, so that no matter where you are, if you're in Jalukopo or you are in Savalugu, the standard of education is the same. I don't know why the NDC is going ahead to promise some form of a tertiary substitution fees and all that. So we've talked extensively. I'm glad you gave Bernard the opportunity. Bernard has been missing on the invitation. He's fired up to come, and he has been missing in actions to have their take on that. I just want to say to our viewers that I'll be on a short hiatus. So if you don't see me a couple of weeks on your screen, they've not kicked me out. I know I'm the only female voice, and so I have to be here to balance and check the men to do the right thing. So if you don't see me, I'll be back. I just need to take a short hiatus to kind of refresh and regroup, so that I can be more feisty when I come back.
Voice of the voiceless.
Yes.
Yeah, she needs a vacation.
Exactly. So I know time is pressed. I'll not take your time. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll miss you all, especially me. It's good to have you back. But you and I will connect. We need to ramp up some crazy stuff on X and get people talking. I want to trend again. Yeah, it's a bit negative.
Yeah, we can do that. I've been doing a lot of movement on Saturdays lately. So because school started, you cannot do a lot during the week. So the Saturdays sometimes becomes difficult. Yeah,
Well,
I miss you guys all too. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, look, it's been a very lively conversation. I think this could go on for even 2 more hours, and we'll still not be satisfied. But we have other things to do, and I appreciate you honoring the invitation. Only that I will wish some people would do a lot more in terms of the honoring aspect. But anyway, I'm not going to call out anyone
Mention
here.
names, name and shame. It's me you're talking to.
I'm going to take the Ghanaian approach and not to name names, but but
Don't
anyway,
go through the
been a lively
corners.
conversation. And
Mr. Alfred.
yeah. Well, You calling Alfred?
No, yeah, I was telling him, let's set some time to talk about the 24-hour economy.
Okay.
Let's not forget it's a game changer. You don't agree, I'll make you a believer.
Okay. We'll have an opportunity to discuss on these things further. But, we appreciate our viewers, and we wish them the best in the rest of the weekend. So until next time, enjoy the rest of your day and weekend. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. Yeah, bye.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
You let it yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, matinayela pese. You let it yum 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 yum.